That's a brutal loss for the Packers, man.
That really was. Do you want to like reverse engineer this like memento, like going with like the fourth down play?
So I think the fourth down play is where we start, because it's it was the third down play. It's an unbelievably ballsy call. So they're driving. A couple big decisions on that in that stretch. To not accept the penalty and get one more play was a nice little move by Dan Campbell there in the Lions coaching staff.
How about Vrabel and Dan Campbell, the former, like, you know, just like not the players you expect.
The meathead brainiacs. I absolutely love it from both of them. That happens, but then they get a holding call. So it goes back to second and 17. And on second down, their get right play on that 2nd and 17 is a hook and lateral in the biggest moment of the game, in the biggest moment of the season. They're playing like they got nothing to lose. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I was waiting for so many more just fakes and onside kicks. There's enough today where from other teams, but I was expecting even more of that. But no, the hook and lateral was so funny because you could just see it coming. Like I was like, why is St. Brown kind of shifted? Oh, that's why, because he's two-hand shove pass this like a basketball lateral. So that was a basketball pass, like two-hand chest pass. So that was like, I've seen that play before, actually from Matt LaFleur. Like when didn't they run that against the Rams, or the Rams ran it against him in the red zone, like in the playoffs a few years ago? It might have been
I don't remember. I was at that game. I don't know why I don't remember that, but
so I've seen that play before at Lambeau. So I laughed at it. I was like, hey, I've seen this in this situation, like maybe not that tight of a situation, but down at this part of the field. So it's kind of funny to see that again. But then the fourth down call was perfect.
More of those, by the way. The Titans one yesterday was
a little extreme.
That one was a little bit out there. But those plays on 3rd and forever, especially when you're in no man's land. I mean, obviously, this is a different situation for the Lions. It doesn't matter if they lose the game. They can do anything that they want to. But even in normal down and distance situations, when it's like 3rd and 17 and you need to get back on track and you're in that no man's land, those pitch plays, I think we should see a few more of them every year than we do.
Teams were starting to do it against picket fence defenses, just like what you're talking about, 3rd and extra long. And then like when they have like 7 guys at the sticks, just rallying the tackle. That's where, and now teams have started to tweak it more and more. You see about, I agree with you. You see it about 4, 5, 6 times a year. I think you're going to see it maybe even more than that, because even the one that the Titans ran, which was just Burks, it was planned, but Burks went haywire on it. Like you got to rip the eject button on that play. What's that?
You got to know.
I know you have he like hook shot of that. And like,
I can't believe he got it there. The fact that he got it all the way there was wild.
I thought it was gonna be one of those, when guys get spun, especially when you get like smaller quarterbacks, the ball just floats up in the air. It actually had like a nice arc to it. Like it was actually like he hit a double to the gap kind of throw on that. But you'll see it a little more. I agree with you. I think you'll see it. Some of those more not ad-lib plays, but extended plays, like planned extended plays. Like we're even seeing with protections where it's kind of the planned break contain. We're starting to see that a little bit more with offensive line. So I see maybe those like planned extended plays are going to crop in a little bit more.
And then that 4th and 1, obviously to win the game, not going empty there and throwing it is another just ballsy choice.
Well, jumbo.
Yeah.
So they showed like a big run look, and then it went I couldn't believe they went empty, because you got to give some run threat a little bit.
That was my thought as well, but it worked out well.
The quick out to DJ Chark on the conversion they had, the 3rd down, I think it was 3rd. I
believe it was 3rd down. They sent Raymond in a little quick motion there, and then it was a little pick play. It was great. It
was empty. I was like, oh, we got to give a little bit of threat to run, but worked out well. And they ran stick, which is hilarious. It's that Gordon Ramsay meme again, where it's like Joe Lombardi runs stick, just like, oh, you idiot, what are you doing? And then it's like, Ben Johnson runs it. It's like, oh, you sweetheart. That's so awesome. But they would address it. They went on the cheetah count, which is when the center, as soon as he grabs the ball, he snaps it, as opposed to even ready go. So, and then you have a backup linebacker in there because of the Quay Walker incident. And so that, it was a little compounded thing that ended up in a big situation that won the game for the Lions.
Where do you want to start with Packers disappointment? The Quay Walker thing is in there. I would say inability to stop the run. Again, in a huge moment. The numbers aren't staggering. The Lions average like a little over 4 yards a carry, but they had like a 46% success rate. They ran the ball consistently throughout the entire game, and they had like 0.14 EPA per rush, which is very, very good. It was one of the best rates of the entire week, far above what the league average would be over the course of the season. So even though they weren't ripping off huge gains left and right, they ran the ball consistently in a way that they needed to in this game.
they avoided negative plays, it felt like.
Yes.
Say what the Packers didn't get those explosive plays for a defense, which is TFLs and all those types of things. So that's this Lions offense, because they do smatter in some play action and some nakeds and some screen game, that they never kind of felt like off schedule. Like, so the Lions never felt like tight, like with their offense. They were able to kind of get to what they wanted to because they had a lot of manageable situations. And when they didn't, they're running freaking pitch plays on second and forever.
And then they had the one shot play. I mean, you're running the ball consistently, and then
with
you
not
set
Jameson
up that
Williams
one shot play.
By the way,
which is awesome. A pretty good guy to run.
He's a great shot play guy. Yes, I know. So they have
I love that they were in. I think it was 21 personnel on the play. They had a tight end in the game or a fullback in the game, so it was heavy early down. And the Packers were not in base personnel, but it was a heavy box. They were in a single high defense, and so Raymond was the number 2 receiver, run straight at the post safety. They're in cover 3, and the tight end of that side, I believe it was Brock Wright, locked down the corner. So all Raymond had was all that space. Awesome. You see that play a lot in the Shanahan offense, but it's from the number 1 receiver running that to the corner, back to the post. So it was a little bit of a tweak on something we've seen a lot against the Packers. Remember George Kittle had that touchdown on Sunday Night Football a few years ago on a similar idea. So they hit that for like their one big explosive pass play. I don't think that the Lions had another completion over like 15 yards in this game.
Didn't feel like it. So it felt like a lot of throws at guys' feet, like 8 yards.
They did not move the ball consistently.
Goff had the gloves on. So as a former quarterback, I did not like throwing with gloves. It's a personal preference thing. The gloves have gotten better as far as throwing. But I think his thing is because his motion's so over the top that the ball, when a proper spiral off your hand, you throw it down like a dart. Not that everyone throws darts, but okay. But your pointer finger is going to be pointed down at the end of when you're throwing. And I think the glove was sticking to his pointer finger. And so the ball just kept nosediving on him. I just think his throwing style does not conducive to using gloves. That's just a theory. I have no idea, but it happened too often for it not to be like one thing that's making this happen.
We're talking about their inability to move the ball consistently, their quarterback not being able to throw with the glove on, and they still won this game because of the Packers' inconsistency on offense. I think that the third down numbers, at one point they were like 3rd of 14, and you can come up with every example of them faltering on third down. Multiple Aiden Hutchinson sacks, one that was the result of a chip by the right guard. The help actually screwed up the play.
The help ruined.
And then you have some just miscues on third down, that the performative go ball interception to Kirby Joseph, of which there could have been another if it wasn't erased by penalty. So the Packers offense just, again, did not make enough plays in the passing game when they needed to. And then you combine that with a missed field goal, a fumble while driving. I mean, just miscues, enough of them to keep Green Bay out of the playoffs.
It's a playing game essentially, even if the Lions had nothing to play for, and that's what it felt like. Those 5 mistakes, that's what it is. These tight games. That's what it comes down to, and a couple big plays. That's why the Lions just need that one explosive play to kind of knock the top off, because they're kind of shooting jabs the whole game. It's keeping up their own defense as well. But yeah, the performative deep ball showed up a couple times in this game, and that's what Rodgers has been doing in this, especially in the second half of the year. He's kind of always done this, but he had this guy named Devontae Adams, so it worked even better. Was man coverage or man blitz? Yeah, I'm launching up go balls and slot fades, and I'm just going to punish you. And that's what it felt like he again got to. Oh, I got man coverage, I'm taking it. And that's what the last interception was. Pressure. I'm going to take this. It's not like a bad answer. It's just, it's hard to sustain when you maybe have some inconsistent receivers doing it, or maybe not overly dominant receivers. So that's what it just has felt like this whole year. And sure enough, it showed up twice. One got called back, but one actually happened at the end of the game.
So a couple moments there afterwards, I think Jamal Williams asked for Rodgers' jersey, or someone did. He said no, he wanted to keep it. I don't know what that means. I'm sure it might mean nothing. It might mean he just didn't want to take off his jersey. He was walking off the field with Randall Cobb, but he was walking off the field with Randall Cobb in a very contemplative sort of way. They were like, had their arms around each other, walking through the tunnel and, looking up at the stands. And I'm sure he was enjoying that moment to a certain extent, but at the same time, it's hard not to look at that and start pondering or asking questions about what happens now, because that's what happens now.
Was a Simple Minds playing? Like, don't you forget about me as they walked off.
That's kind of what it was. I expected the fist to go up when he was walking off the tunnel, but that's where we are. I mean, it's going to be another off season of
this.
What's going to happen? Is he coming back? Is he not coming back? And this team looked like they could potentially be dangerous in the playoffs based on the way that they were playing. But when you give yourself this little margin for error and you're playing against a team that is pretty good and has been pretty good all year, was also on the doorstep of the playoffs, this is what can happen when you leave it down to one game. And this is what happened.
Yeah. And we've talked about this whole year how NFC, there's like, who are the contenders in the NFC? The other kind of side effect is that there's a lot of teams in the middle. And that's in any given Sunday type of situation, is if you aren't having the bounces bounce your way, you're not playing consistently, anyone can knock you off. And that's what it's a lot of flawed teams, good and bad, where it's like, oh, we can work on this, or it's like, ooh, this is really getting exposed in these situations. And that's what happens. It comes down to one game, essentially a playing game against a team that you're more or less evenly matched with. And it comes down to a couple plays, and now you're not in the playoffs. I know another offseason way, and we already have Rodgers' like trade and dead cap already down pat. Like, already have those articles, already did those episodes. It's kind of all right. Well, we already did our homework for this offseason. We're ready to go because this is year 3 of this. It feels like.
I mean, big questions for the Packers. I think beyond the Rodgers thing, their defense played better in the second half of the year and down the stretch, but it was still a pretty disappointing season from them defensively overall when you consider the amount of resources pumped into that side of the ball. I mean, they were up there in cash spending on defense with the extensions that they gave out, whether it's to Campbell, Jair, Kenny Clark's on a huge deal. Preston Smith is an expensive player. Adrian Amos is an expensive player. They have a lot of guys that they've committed to on that side of the ball. Plus, you can rattle off the number 1 picks. And the amount of draft capital that they've spent on that side. And I think that they expected, or probably expected, to be an elite defense this year. And that's not what ended up happening. Right. So them figuring out what the formula is going to have to be with Rodgers, without Rodgers, based on how this roster has built, I think ultimately could lead to some changes on that side of the ball. The rumblings were there all year. Maybe they died down a little bit based on how the last month of the season went. But I think this ending may turn up the volume on those a little bit more again.